Now go ahead.
All right, so yeah, just kind of recap. Now I'm married to a Nigerian, and I've been embraced by the culture itself. I think for me, my background allowed me to see different cultures on how we can all get along. And where I left off was with being from Patterson, New Jersey. Um, yeah, like I've watched little kids out their mouths, and not just black but Spanish, say, "Yo, I want to be a drug dealer. Like this is what I want to grow up to be because it's glorified." So like, I mean, it's a system thing. Like Brandon was saying earlier, I agree with what Brandon's saying 100%. Like it's just a system thing that has been in place, and it's hard for it's hard for those kids to see more than that. And then when you have an outsider that comes in and is like accusatory, like for instance, when we speak of Africans, we say they automatically look down on Black Americans, and it's not to lift them up; it's to continue to tear them down. They're lazy, they don't want to work, they don't want to do this. But a lot of them have businesses, and they can hire them and give them a chance to have that. So yeah, I mean that's kind of my thought right now on that.
Well, let me chime in. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Hmm.
Because my thing, like, I know that you're saying like most Africans look at Black Americans as lazy, and just to go with that, because I was raised by like a single mother. I mean, my dad was around, but he didn't really do much. And for my mom to immigrate here with two small kids, no papers, no real education, she was still able to put like two kids through college and all of that versus like Americans who've been here, Black Americans that are here have all of this opportunity and like Scott said earlier, just like squander it. And I know Ricardo was just talking about, well, they have these businesses, why don't they hire them? It's like if you're not showing any like initiative that you want to better yourself, why would I, you know, bring you into my business to try and do that? And I guess that is where the problem is. But I mean, at this point, I can't think of any solution as far as how to fix that stigma, or really just, I mean, like how to move forward from that.
So I would like to touch on something Estelle said real quick.
Go ahead.
It's easy, right, for somebody from the outside to come in and start fresh versus somebody that's going through something
Mm,
from not just their mom, but their mom's mom, from their mom's mom to their mom's mom to their mom's mom to their mom. Like it's hard to tear down that constant,
true.
hey, you're nothing. Hey, you're nothing. They've been hearing this since they've gotten here from the ships that you're 3/5 of a human. You're this, you're that. Like it's never been like there's no positivity. And if there is positivity, they don't even believe it because they've heard it for years. It's a generational thing that has been beaten and beaten and beaten. So for somebody to say, "Oh, well, I saw this happen because this person came in and look at them now." Yeah, but you also haven't gone through the turmoil, the constant beating, the having to fight for your civil rights. Like they're
Mm,
able to get these things because people had to fight for them to have these things when they weren't here. And I wasn't saying like, okay, why don't you just hire them? What I was saying was, if you have a business and you're dealing with African Americans, and you see a young kid that may need potential, that may need help finding a job, you can take that kid and you can mentor him.
Empathy for the culture
Yeah,
is what I'm like. You gotta. I mean, for us, the culture that we have is not ours. We've lost our way. We've had to take every negative thing thrown our way and turn it positive. The word nigger, we had to take the word and make it positive in some way because that's all they gave us. So the empathy, if you do own these businesses, real recognize real is all I can say.
Mhm.
If I see you reach your hand out towards me, I have to reach my hand halfway if I want it. So if you put it out there and it's not accepted or it's not given, then that's your blessing that's going to get counted up. But if you put it out there and you help a child, and you provide for his family, stays off the street, and then he comes back and become more than what he started as, and bless you in the end. I mean, it's the first step has to be taken to help dig us out of the hole that we're in. We're in a mental hole, and we do need help getting out. Because the only Black Americans that get good treatment or accepted by Africans are the Black Americans that are rich enough to go back home and see them, and actually can go back to the motherland. And they're welcome with open arms. They're welcome with parades. They take them through the whole tribe, treat them everything in one night, try to teach them everything, and tell them to come back home. But on the other end, the ones that left there and came here treat us totally different from the ones that stayed there.
You know, Brandon, you have a very good point. There's a football player named Ndamukong Suh, actually from Cameroon. And they had like a little, I think it was a special on TV where they showed how he went back home, treated the man like Nelson Mandela. I'm exaggerating, of course, but they treated that man very, very well. They gave him the traditional clothes and took him to see the village and all that, and there was no problem with it, no problem at all with it. So you do have a point about that, Brandon. Now, and just like you said, Africans come here, but keep in mind, the Africans that come here, all they know as well is what they saw on TV in Africa. That's all they know about Black Americans here. That's part of the problem. So it goes both ways. So both sides know only what the TV has told them about the other side. So when the other side cross paths with each other, they're like, huh? What? I don't know how to deal with this person. You're either what I saw on TV or the complete opposite of what I saw on TV. Even though some of them are still very ignorant and act like, you know, people don't have the ability to learn stuff. But that's fine, like whatever. But yeah, you do have a very, very serious point on that. But full perspective, like I said, both sides only know what they've seen on TVs. And yes, they do have TVs in Africa. For all the people who are watching and think that Africans don't have TV, you stupid idiots. Go ahead. Any person want to comment on that? No?
Hey, Mercy just joined too.
Mercy, my sister, what's up? Your microphone ain't working yet.
All right, just go ahead.
All right. You ready to talk now? Nope, still can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
Just go ahead.
All right. All right.
Can't hear you.
Anyway, let me go ahead and continue. So the whole point of this is just to open up the lines of communication for everybody to say their piece, because it's not a black and white thing, man. There's so many different angles to the breakdown of communication. I always believe that the root of every issue is a communication problem. One side doesn't understand the other. There goes your problem. So I appreciate everybody being 100% real with their opinions and whatnot. There's no wrong opinion. It's an opinion. Can't be wrong. It's just an opinion. But yeah, so hey, Mercy, you ready to join now? You're on mute.
Yes, I am. 1 second, though.
All right, cool. And for everybody watching too, ain't no more excuses about I don't know this and I don't know that. So long as there's internet and you got access to it, If I catch one of y'all posting something on Facebook and you talk about you can't go online and look up some stuff about your own roots or what your possible roots could be, you shut up and slap yourself. You're stupid.
I think it's already been programmed in our mind that it's too hard to do it. That is, because
Hold on, Brandon, you were saying something?
the propaganda and pictures that are put in our head.
Hold on, Brandon, you saying something?
Did I say something? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
A little bit. Try to talk closer to the microphone.
Yeah, so it was a little low.
You hear me? Okay. That's what I was saying.
Nah, it's still kind of low.
Yeah, like I said, the propaganda and the pictures. Still low?
That's better. That's better. Go ahead.
You know?
A little bit. Go ahead and start talking. I'll let you know if it's a little low.
You hear me better now?
Yeah, a lot better. Go ahead. You good?
I was saying like there's in the propaganda that's put in place to where that Africa is nothing but deserts and tribes and stuff like that. So the people that can't afford to get there and see the real thing, like you're saying with Google, everything is accessible now. If the first step is wanted, the first step is available, and there's no real hindrance now keeping us away from rejoining the culture or redoing what they undid. But as mentally damaged as we have been, and the genocide, if I'm using the word in the right sentence or whatever, it's done a great damage to the black man. They had the black man from the 1960s considered to the black man today is a total reverse. There was a black man wearing a suit and tie just to walk down to the store. He carried himself like a man, and they kept torturing us and doing what they and prosecuting us and everything until they broke that man. So where now it's just easier just to do what I see on TV. It's an easier path. I mean, the player that plays for the NFL would never be as rich as the owner of the NFL team. And that's the mentality that they've given us. They given us success, but we're still owned, if you get what I'm saying. And that's the only image that we have here in America. Being successful, but you're still not first, still, which is ultimately sometimes color.
All right. Mercy, you go ahead and put in some input. First, introduce yourself. State who you are. Say whatever you feel like you want to say. Plug your radio show. See how I did that?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mercy Jordan. Married to that man somewhere in here too, in the group, Ricardo.
The guy with no hair on his head.
You guys are nuts. I do have a weekly radio show. It's called Mercy in the Morning on Afro Vibes Radio. Excuse the extra background excitement here. I have a little infant with me, but I'm definitely excited to join the conversation. Not exactly sure where you guys are at, but yeah, I would love to jump in and give my thoughts and as well.
So, two things we did talk about. We talked about one, that the experience that you have had with, since you grew up here, the experiences that you had with both Africans and African Americans. That was the first thing we talked about. The second thing we talked about, how you grew up. So if you want to touch on both those
the experiences I've had with Africans and African Americans. Okay. Well, I am Nigerian by birth. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria. We grew up, I have 3 other siblings, and we were all born there. Came here when we were quite young, so we've schooled here in the U.S. Are citizens of the United States as well. So definitely a huge African community a large Nigerian population as well in the Houston area, and of course in the U.S. in general. So I've had the opportunity to both stay connected to my roots in terms of Nigerian culture and the whole 9 yards there, and as well as, of course, integrate and meet friends and now family with African Americans proper. So I guess specifically in terms of my experience, what exactly, I don't know if we've honed it into a specific like part of, what exactly did you want to know, or did y'all share concerning your experiences with?
It was just whatever stood out to you most growing up, whatever experience that stood out to you most between the two sides.
Okay, well, I would definitely say that there was more of a negative stigma when it came to Africans or being African. So a lot of us Africans did our best to, maybe, if the correct word is, hide the fact that we were Africans if we could. I mean, of course, if you have a name like, my first name is Aluchi, which means the work of God, but I went by Mercy because it was easier to pronounce. And then, of course, like I said, back then you had the whole African booty scratcher and the whole, the negative connotations were very strong then. Of course, now it's cool to be African. We have everything from the music and the culture. We know, of course, recently with Wakanda Forever, everyone's coming out. Now there's this whole connection, right? But it was definitely not the thing back in the days. And I think what stands out for me also it's more prevalent is the connection when it comes to our parents, or my parents and that generation, and what they experienced, and what I think was passed on in terms of the hesitation, especially towards the African American community. And that particular experience there was an expectation coming from Africa or Nigeria, wherever it was, that, oh, you see your brother, quote unquote, right? Because they're another Black person, and there's an expectation that that person would embrace you. But that wasn't the case for a lot of our older generation, our parents and their generation. They did get the same negative connotations or the pullback, and weren't helped as much because, of course, a lot of them came here for a new life, trying to establish themselves, raise their families. Some of them had to start all over, even if they were professionals back in Africa or in Nigeria type of thing, but had to start from square one, working, all kinds of jobs and still, the whole 9 yards type of thing. So I think that was the biggest thing that I heard that was consistent with that older generation of Africans, was just that expectation that there would be more of an embrace and a helping hand, or a positive experience, but it wasn't there. So I know that definitely fed into the perspective that, hey, African Americans are, no, you should stay away from them type of thing. Like, they're not, there was definitely more of a negative type of stereotype. Now, I'm thankful my parents weren't as much like that. I mean, I think the faith, their Christian faith, and then just having more experiences along the way for them helped them to understand that, hey, not everybody is the same. And just like we wouldn't want everybody to see a Nigerian as a 419er or a fraudster, or just an African poverty-stricken, you wouldn't want that connotation stamped on you. So you shouldn't assume that it's the same for everybody across the board. And so, I think, definitely as I grew up, I embraced my culture a lot more. The language, I've had an opportunity to actually represent my country, my home country, Nigeria. So being able to go back home, and I played basketball, and I played here in the States, and got recruited to try out for the national team and made the team. And so that's how I got connected with the national team. And so to kind of come full circle and get to experience home beyond what we see. Even as Africans in the diaspora, the young generation, we hear a lot of the negative things about Africa growing up, and it's easy to assume, unless someone's telling the good stories, we assume that, oh, it's all negative. Thank God we got out of there, or type of thing. So sometimes we do kind of even add to the conversations that are negative, because one, again, it was cool not to be associated with Africa or anything like that, and then two, you want to be accepted by whether it's African Americans or whites or whatever population would embrace you. So not to talk too much, but definitely have also had the opportunity to travel quite a bit and understand that give everybody a fair opportunity to tell you who they are, and we can learn so much from everyone, and definitely try to use the platform I have to highlight both the positive about Africa, as well as have conversations like this where we can learn and move forward and have more understanding, so we can make more educated decisions about each other and about the world. So yeah.
Just to add to something that you said earlier, another thing that a lot of Africans, or no African, comes here to America with the racial baggage that the Black Americans already are like kind of born with. Because if you notice, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying this, but I don't care. Black Americans will make anything about race. They go to the store, oh, they don't have no more toothpaste. Oh, you don't want to send me no toothpaste. Africans don't do that. We don't do that. Like, we don't make everything about race. Some things are valid, but when you start making everything about race, it loses its touch, it loses its purpose, it loses its power. So I think that's another reason why Africans come here and they just handle business, because they don't have that mindset that you're born with a disease called being Black. Like,
yeah, we had too many things to worry about back home than to make excuses about what somebody else is doing. That we tried to, I think that's definitely something I admire, that there was this type of grind that happened, because you have to be at your best. You have to be at your best. You can't let opinions and even reality, because we had our own situations or civil wars or things like that could have held us back, or even things like as simple as not being able to go to school for the fact that everybody's on strike, and it's for years, and the teachers can't go to school because they're not getting paid, and so there's this whole, a lot of things have happened, but there's this understanding that, hey, like, we can focus on and regurgitate the problems, or we can be about the solution, and we understand what are those factors that can help us keep moving forward, and that's education, and that's hard work ethic, and that's there was just no time to make those type of, and not to downplay what African Americans born and living here in America went through. Not to say that it's just an excuse, because it's a very valid perspective. It was very real, and it evolved. It surrounded the livelihood of African Americans, what they experienced slavery. And the thing is, we are storytellers as Africans and African Americans. So it was something that was passed down generationally, like, hey, this thing that hovered over the people. So I understand why it's almost like it's embedded into it seems like it's embedded into the mindset. So it comes out in conversation. My dad says all the time, you can't give what you don't have. And if it's something that's been poured into you and we walk around with this, hey, this kind of thing on our shoulder that causes us not to move forward, and then there's no conversation or visible image of what can change that thought process, then it becomes a cycle. And thankfully, something like a movie like Black Panther, where it shows that kind of discourse that's happening, but then also solutions on how there can be real implementable things, so that we as African Americans and Africans can move forward, and learn from one another and understand why, people are feeling the way they do, but then move forward with it. So, and then hit that next generation. I love the fact that they have people out there buying, movie halls and stuff like that, so people can see the movie. Because if you see an image of something better than what you see, and I think my husband spoke about how in New Jersey, kids they aspire to be drug dealers. Why? Because it was glorified, because it's something that they saw as this is the greatest thing that can happen to you in that environment. So if you know no better, it's not about being an excuse, but that's where it ends when it comes to your ambitions type of thing. But if we show people better things, if we show intellectual women that can do the impossible, we show black families together, that it's not just about making money so that they can destroy each other like empires seem to kind of do. And if we show better, then we can do better. If we have conversations that can show them also how to implement those changes, not just tell stories, then I think that it can definitely make a groove, and we can fly with that type of thing. So yeah,
I'm 100% on board with that. I totally agree with that assessment. There's some conversations I've been trying to have with some Africans here. Now let me ask you, Mercy, have you actually had this type of real conversation with your family or your people or anyone? And I'm talking about not the ones who've been here for 2 and 3 years. I'm talking about, well, maybe 2 and 3 years is cool too, but the ones who still got a heavy accent, because those are the hardest ones to reach. Have you had a chance to have this conversation, have that type of conversation with them? And if you have, how did they respond to that?
Well, I think it was a situation where, if I remember correctly, it was an uncle, not necessarily blood uncle, but how we do uncle is uncle type of thing. So so there was some news related situation that happened, something that was in the news that was brought up, I think maybe like after church or something like that, that people were just kind of discussing. And then one mentioned that, hey, well, that's, African Americans, that's what they do type of thing. And, I quickly jumped in and said, that, hey, I can use the excuse that, hey, it's an uncle out of respect, but I knew that to just kind of sit back and let that slide versus educating. I definitely believe in taking opportunities to educate and not just, get mad and move on type of thing. So basically it was just kind of like, look, again, if we make that assumption that everybody is like that and not take it as a piecemeal situation, then we're just going to be part of the problem, because you wouldn't want somebody else to look at you because he was a business owner and say, oh, well, he must be a fraud because he's Nigerian and because uncle, you're Nigerian and you're doing business. Then you wouldn't want everybody to assume that you're a fraud because that's what they see in the news type of thing. So the same hand you would want, treat people the way you want to. And that's exactly what I said. You can't, and then he's thankfully got a chance to meet my husband and get to know him and understand that, hey, you can see with a real experience that the people, quote unquote, that you see out there, not everybody acts like that. And just the same in our ethnicity or culture, we have, people make bad decisions all across the board in every country. So to just stamp one and then keep moving is not real. And I think even kind of going back a little bit further, when I was in college, one of my teammates was a white teammate of mine that I remember her saying, "Oh, where in Africa are you from?" Like she thought Africa was a country.
Hold up. All right, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, she thought Africa was a country, and and was kind of laughing about, just thought it was so cool that I was from Africa, and at first I got irritated and wanted to be like, very smart, like a smart aleck about it and give it to her, but I realized quick, I don't know why I had the thought to just be like, no, just tell her that Africa is not a country. And yeah, educate, because we could get annoyed and just and she would never know and just think that, oh, I was just a black mad, woman or person or whatever, and help her buy into that whole perspective that they see already, but give something different and say, no, I just said, no, it's not just a country. It's actually a continent with 54, plus nations in it, type of thing. Educate. And then sometimes we are that education. We have to do different, in terms of a people, whether we're African Americans or African, and be that different, because some people will never see Nigeria, or you might be the only African American person that somebody sees. And if not against being yourself, but be be better than what they say is who we are or claim who we are. So yeah.
And also who we are and who they say we are and who we believe we are is not our fault. Our disconnect is not our fault. But for it lasting this long, it is. Our search for knowledge on where we come from and where we're going has died with what they've given us.
Right.
And it's based off of he say, she say on why we can't get together and be greater than what we are. Somebody else told us that Africans are scammers or this, that, and the other. It wasn't a personal experience. Somebody else told me that, hey, black people do this, that, and the other. It took me a while to have that own personal experience because that's the culture in different lands.
Yeah.
This is normal here, which is not normal there. And the standards that you have there are not normal here.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I keep saying the word empathy, is have empathy for the culture that we've been given because it's not real. The things that the Black American value, and well, not all of them, but the lower, the criminal, the drug dealer, the vision that you have of them, those people, they've been given that. And it's not something that they chose, but it's something that they was given, and that's all that they know. And even back on your own business conversation, it's that first step. Which one is gonna bite the bullet and take the first step, and which one is gonna bite the bullet and humble themselves to take their hand and walk with the leader?
You know what?
I know the Black American shouldn't be leading.
And I feel that, Brandon. I totally feel that. Here's where I come in with sometimes, okay, I understand you can be given something, but at some point, everybody is born with some level of common sense and logic at some point.
Right.
So I understand, this is what was given, and I can't speak on some certain stuff because I've done some of the same stupid stuff. I'm not gonna sit here in front like I haven't. Some of y'all know.
As have I.
Right, exactly. So I'm not gonna sit here and play like I'm just some kind of angel or nothing. But at the same token, my dad came here. He could have chosen to go sell dope. You know what he did? He sold ice cream.
Right.
So
My mom did that too.
there we go. So, after, I don't know if you played football when we was in high school, but I don't remember if you played with us, but after football practice, we'll see the guy in the ice cream truck. And I used to see how they'd treat him. And one dude actually punched some dude in the head. And I was like, if it took everything in me to not lose my mind, it took the African culture in me to not lose my mind and cut this man's throat for doing that, because that was stupid. Like, just messing with him because he had an accent or whatever. Dude was being nice to him and everything, and they just picked on him like that. And then I can remember in middle school, same thing. Foreign student just got here, treat the kid like make fun of him. Like, if they want to mess with some girl, they'd be like, that's your boyfriend. He African, he don't speak English, or this and that. I'm like, y'all, even in middle school, I had enough sense to be like, man, y'all are stupid. High school, same thing. I don't have to explain. Man. But
I actually talked to an African chick at Westbury when I first got there, and they clowned me and told me I was gonna catch AIDS. So I've seen both sides. I've been a part of it. Of course, me being me, I laugh.
I know you laugh. Yeah, I know. But in general, that's a stupid comment.
Right. But we also have the Black people, like the director of the movie Black Panther, like director of the movie Get Out, the ones who actually are awake. Not too many are willing to be awakened because they're comfortable. The ones that are willing, the ones that we need to conversate with. The ones that are not willing will continue to be the baggage. It's a mental bondage that you have to choose to break yourself. And a lot of Black Americans are into that lazy stereotype, which is not physically lazy, because we'll physically do anything we want to do. But it's the mental laziness that keeps us where we are and where most of them want to stay. You want to keep something from a Black man, put it in a book.
If that ain't the truest statement I've ever heard in my life.
That's so true.
That is the truest statement. Because think about it right now. I can write something on Facebook that something happened. Everybody will take my word for it instead of Googling it to see if I just told the truth or not.
Right. You
So
can
you're
post
right.
it and say that you can say Bush died this morning at 3 a.m. They gonna be like, oh my God. Everybody gonna repost. Oh, I can't believe he died. All this other crap. Instead of
R.I.P.
just typing it into Google.
Doing a quick Google search. I
I
tell a
don't
lot
think
of people, and they think I'm being condescending when I say this, which I partially am, because that's the type of person I am. But I would tell them, Google is your friend. And when somebody asks me a dumb question, I always say, I start with, Google is your friend. I might proceed to answer the question, but I will answer it with Google. I will open my phone, go to Google, type in their question, voila, there goes your answer. Why is that so hard? We all got internet, man. Ignorance is for me, ignorance is no longer an excuse. If you got the internet, shut up and read. Unless you can't read. Now, if you can't read, the one or two things. Either you was born with some kind of mental illness that won't allow you to read, or you just don't want to read. One of the two.
Mercy, mute.
But yeah, I'm not really one for. I understand there are valid excuses and then there's dumb excuses. Ignorance, no. At this point in 2018 in America, there's no ignorance. I can't let that slide, man. That's just me. I can't let it slide.
I don't think that particular thing can be attributed to a race. Like
yeah, that's a general thing.
That's for everybody. White people do it, black people. I mean, the presidential election was won based off of stuff like that coming from the internet, to be honest. But what I want to say is kind of touching on that whole the Get Outs and the Black Panthers is if we as a people stop supporting the negative stereotype for black people, we would accomplish more. Because clearly when we see something positive, Black Panther is the #1 movie in the world. So what happens if we do the reverse effect and stop supporting the negative things? The slave movies, the reason why they keep making it is because we keep going to see them. If we stop and take our money out of these things, they have no choice but to give us positive things. Because it automatically cancels out, hey, we know what goes on. We know it goes on. We don't need to be retold and retold and retold the same thing, that we've been oppressed, that we've been suppressed, and that in some ways the law keeps us there. We know that. We want to see things that elevate us, and it starts with conversations like these and having conversations outside of this video conversation with other people that were around. I mean, and that's why I love Black Panther, because it did do that. It caused us to have conversations with others that weren't the normal conversations. Like when we were having all these police killings of black people, right? I kept hearing, we need to have a conversation with the white people. We need to have a conversation with the
1 second, Ricardo. It's about to stop recording. I gotta start a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll keep that thought. I gotta start a new session again. Hopefully this is the last time. But all right, cool.